All right, so youngest of 13, farm boy from Paola, hog farmer, right?
Yeah, a little hog farmer. We did a little bit of everything. You know, it wasn't, we lived in Hillsdale, Kansas first, and it was a little bitty town between Paola and Spring Hill.
Was there even is there a high school in Hillsdale?
At the time there was. It was K through 8, and my brothers and sisters were all in there, and then we moved to Paola and moved to the big city.
So the big city of Paola, Kansas.
Absolutely, it was a culture shock. We actually lived in town and didn't quite know how to handle it. We were always running the streets because we were just used to being out running in the field. So,
all right, tell me a hog farming story. Something maybe gross or something we don't know about hog farming.
Well, I remember as my dad telling me, don't get too attached, because we used to raise them.
You couldn't name them?
Couldn't name them, because and then that dreadful day when your little piglet has to get butchered. So that was always the worst one. So he said, don't get too attached to them. So.
Well, I think everybody knows about your football background, but a 3-time state qualifier in wrestling as well in high school. You got 3rd, right, your senior year?
Yeah.
Was that a passion of yours? Were you into wrestling as much as you were football?
Yeah, because one of my older brothers, my older brother Gary, was a really good wrestler at Paola, and one of their better teams, one of their best teams. He was on there, and I always followed him around, so started wrestling, and a bunch of my buddies. In Paola, you either play football and wrestled. Basketball and baseball were kind of things some other kids did, but if you were going to school, you played football and wrestled, and so I loved it. That was always one of my passions. So. Very
good. Then you went on to Pitt State, where you were a safety, and I have to imagine that you're a big hitter.
Well, I was a hitter anyway. That was kind of my thing. I said I wasn't extremely fast and extremely smart, but I at least knew how to get to the football, and so I wasn't a superstar by any means. I just took up a jersey. So.
But you guys were good. I mean,
yeah,
playing for Pitt State in the '80s. Well, you lost to Elon in the national championship game. What was your college football experience like?
It was good. Played for a bunch of great coaches. Coach Bill Samuels was my advisor and also a football coach, and he's probably the one that got me started thinking about coaching, because he told me my football skills were not great. So, but he told me that he said, because I used to sit around and chat with him all the time, and he told me I'd probably end up making a pretty good coach if I stuck with that. But Ron Randleman, Bruce Poland, I was out of there before Franchione got there, and so it was just it taught me a lot. I learned a lot about football, learned a lot about how to conduct yourself as a young man. 2-a-days kind of wears you down sometimes, and the fight ain't there. But when we're having meetings and stuff, I can see it.
So, hog farmer from Kansas, attracted to a private city school in Missouri, and you said it the other day on the phone that it reminded you of home somehow?
Yeah, it's just a small town. St. Pius is just a small town, kind of nestled in the big city. All the brothers. The first guys that I started coaching here. Now they're little brothers. We kept seeing the brothers come in, and there's not a lot of one-kid families. So it kind of reminded me of mine. My family, just a big old family, and now I'm getting to that time where, some of the former players, their kids are starting to come through.
You're coaching sons of former players now, right?
Yeah, and I had youth camp in this week, and not this week, but a few weeks ago, and it just was amazing how many former players were bringing their kids up, dropping them off, and it was just, it made me feel really old, but it also made me feel good. So.
Well, you said that it was, you didn't always have the best stuff growing up, and it's kind of like here, you were kind of the underdog as well growing up, and it's the same kind of mentality?
Yeah, and I think right now we're probably trying to set a trend. We're probably the only natural grass football field in the metro, so everybody else has turf, and we're just used to it, and we finally
you can mow it high or low depending on the opponent.
On the
right?
opponent, cut down on their speed. And our practice field always looks like the surface of the moon. It's always just rock hard, and it's just those kind of things like that. That you don't have the best stuff, but I don't want to say brainwash, but you get your kids to buy into hey, this is our house. This is our stuff. Right.
3 state championships. Then the multiplier rule happens. How much did that affect St. Pius?
It affected us a lot. I think, competition-wise, we really don't mind, playing bigger schools. But
you used to take on some big schools from Kansas.
Yeah, Shawnee Mission Northwest, and some of those guys, we love playing them. But eventually, the size is going to catch up with you. You know, we just didn't have the bodies up front, and you know, you can match up with those guys every now and then, but week in and week out, it takes a toll on you. And so we always have good kids, but we're always not real deep. So if we lose a kid, it makes a difference. And
how many more state titles would you have if you were Class 2 the whole time there?
well, you know, I think if we were in '06 when we lost to Harrisonville in the semifinals in 3A, I think we'd have had a shot there, and maybe in '07, and so it could be it could have been a couple. I don't know. There were some good schools. Lawson was darn good, and so we might have had a shot at a couple more.
O'Hara has won the toss and deferred their choice until
Pius has got a first half option.
How much do you like that challenge? Or do you like rolling up with your guys who don't always look like football players, you know, taking on those bigger dudes across the way with fancier uniforms and all that? How much do you like that?
I love it. It's one of the things, you know, some of our parents sometimes say, hey, we need to tone it down, but I love playing these guys. I love going to new stadiums. Our kids, they just seem to rise to the challenge, and they want to fight. They want to prove themselves all the time. And I don't mind. You know, people probably say I'm pretty crazy, but when the new playoff format came around and we were all scrambling to find games, I went ahead and signed a 6-year deal with Maryville just because you know, we've always played them, and you're going to find out how good you are real quick when you play them,
yeah.
Either how bad you are. and I enjoy playing them. When you go up there, they don't, you know, they're not talking about recruiting or all this stuff. They want to play football, and I love playing them.
How many boys here at St. Pius?
Probably less than 200.
Yeah. And so how many are out for the football team usually?
Yeah, we got about 80, 90 kids out, so we get about half our boys sometimes.
That's almost 50%. How do you attain that kind of ratio, those kind of numbers?
Well, I'd like to say it's because of me, but I don't know about that. I think it's just like
probably is.
I think it's part because just what we were talking about, you know, their dads and uncles played here, and they want this tradition to keep going. They want to be a part of it and write their own chapter a little bit.
Yeah. Speaking of Kansas, your stepson's going to play for Olathe North.
That's going to
and Gene Weir.
That's going to be interesting. And I love Coach Weir, and my stepson Cole. He's going to be a freshman, and he's excited about it. And it's going to be. I don't think it'll be a challenge for me because I just love to watch football. My wife might be a little different story. She gets a little fired up. She used to coach softball at Olathe East, so, and you know, she's had some state championships of her own, and she tries to put them up against mine, but I always take them down. So, like I said, it's football. It's soft now.
Right. So you need to get Gene to schedule a lot of those Thursday games so you can make it to
I know. I
plenty.
said he's got to make sure that I can get there sometime. So, but
that's your next opponent, maybe. Sign a 6-year deal with them.
I don't know about that, but.